Okay, time to go over the Genesis strike drop. I'll start by playing it, but my computer doesn't really like this drop. It's very CPU intense. So we're gonna see if it wants to run it. And if not, then I won't play it, and I will just show you how the sounds were made instead of trying to play the whole thing. Wow, my computer really doesn't like pitch map. Okay. So yeah, that's the drop. Um, there's a lot here, so I'm just gonna start by going over the stuff that's easy to go over, which is gonna be and of course. Oh, I actually made these symbols. Okay. I'll probably go over my process for making these symbols a different time. But like as in its own tutorial, but it's a trick I learned from AE5. I made these symbols. It's not really important where you get them from. It's just that they go, they're just there. There's also this guy, right? And then I did kind of like a halftime, like a swing pattern here. It's not great, but you don't really hear it, so it doesn't matter. Also, I just didn't have the time to make it good. I finished this drop like I don't even want to talk about how long this drop took me compared to the amount of time I should have spent on it. Okay, so I'm just gonna go over this in like 2-bar chunks. So I'm just gonna go over things in chronological order. Right, so that's what we'll start with. The drums, we already know what they are. They're just like random samples. I don't think I made either of these. Let me check. Yeah, I didn't. They're just samples I had. Right. Let's start with basses. Here. Okay. So this is what we're starting with. I just kind of heard this. This wasn't like a pattern I trial and errored. I just kind of heard this bass pattern. Right. So first things first, the sub I'm using for most of this is just because it made it a lot simpler for me if I just didn't have to care about my low end on almost all the basses and just have the same low end. There are some exceptions, like this guy. Right, or I think this guy as well. Right, so there are some exceptions, but generally speaking, my sub for the whole thing is just a sine wave. All right. This first sound, see my most recent video on making sounds like this, thrown into PitchMap. So, that's the sound. Then it has all this post-processing. And then there's a pitch map on it. Right? That's the first sound, then it's... This is one of my like weird phase plant neurobases. Basically what I'm doing here is I have this guy, right, which is a square wave, and then I have a high pulse width square wave up a perfect fifth. Which one's on and which one's off? Oh, they're both on. Okay, and then I have a saw wave that's up 2 octaves, I think. Yeah. So this is up 2 octaves in a perfect fifth, and this is up 2 octaves and has octaves unison. So we have and then together there. Then I downsample everything together. Maybe not everything. I downsample only this guy. Then you guys go into lane 2. Yeah, okay. Then parallel process it with this. The important thing here is there's a hard clipper and then a high pass. And then there's just a bunch of like the side chain and making sure the levels are right. Then there's this. Right, so that's the sound. This hard clipper is kind of carrying. Right, so then we have the post-processing on this is a high pass. Why a high pass? I don't know, because there's not a separate sub there. So I don't know what's going on with that. But oh well. Then there's a couple layers here. I have this wrong. There we go. There are a couple layers here. The first one is this guy. See my most recent video, layered with this guy, which is just a sine wave. And then layered with these. What is making this sound? These are from my friend Violet's pack. Violet_orchestral. Okay. And this. These are the bongos, so these two. Without any effects, they sound like this. I wonder how that sounds, actually. That's really funny. Okay. So yeah, it starts here. So we have... And then a lot of post-processing. Let's go through this one by one. We have phase dispersion to make the attack more attacky. Right, a little more lasery. Then we have this... What? What was I thinking? Holy shit! Alright, how does this sound? I mean, okay, this is where the sound of the sound comes from. What? So it starts here with these two. And then if we layer them, you get... Right. Just kind of okay. This one goes into a frequency shifter. Layer these together and it'll sound a little different. Yeah. Then we have this multi-band delay. It looks like this. I don't know why. I don't know why I did this. What was I thinking? Little bit of reverb, then a panch. It's a compressor. So this one's pushing, I think, the lows up. Yeah, it's pushing the first one up, which I'm not sure why. Then we have a flanger, right? That's a flanger? Yeah, it's a flanger. Then we have another flanger. I'm just adding a bunch of metallic stuff using delay and flangers. Another panch. Why do you only do the first one? Okay. Then another frequency shifter that I'm modulating. Yeah, you hear it. Then a manipulator. What are you even doing? Okay, you're Foreman shifting. Why? Then a EQ. Then a Maximus. Then a Panch. Then a Transient Shaper. Then this final EQ. Looks like that. What the hell was I thinking? Anyway, then we have a Maximus. This one is just trying to level out the volume so that it's consistent across all three. Then an OTT. Then this EQ. Then this Maximus. Same deal again, it looks like. Wow, I'm really pushing the highs, and then I'm cutting out the tail so that doesn't interfere with stuff. Another Transient Shaper. Spreader so that it's mono. Then a distortion. And then another patcher. Literally, I need to stop. Someone needs to stop me. OTT. Distortion. This EQ. What? What is the point of this? I must have had a bunch of like stuff there that is too obvious without that. Or possibly I used that to free up room for a different sound. But there's that. Then another Maximus. Doing this on the master. I don't even know why. That's not important. And then another EQ. This is cutting out a lot of the obnoxious highs and emphasizing the mids that actually do something. And then we have a freeform phase that isn't loading. So, it's not doing anything. I think that's the most complicated sound in the entire drop. I don't know why I did that. Then we have this guy. Looks like this. This is some really weird 808 patch I made forever ago that I just use over everything now that I don't know why it sounds so good. But it does. You can basically get this kind of sound just straight out of sine compression, so like, just do that instead, you know? Same sound. Right? Okay, then there's this. This is actually kind of important, or at least this sound has some interesting stuff to it, despite it being a super saw. So there's a couple things to note. First off, we have this guy again. Right. There's also these two. Let's go over the pluck first. Why do you sound like that? Oh, I know why you sound like that. Right, so that's this sound. It's the Car Plus Strong pluck, and the reason I call it that is because if I take out this guy, it's pretty inharmonic. Let's take out everything. And then we have, like, I could make the sound out of just that alone. The process behind this sound is a lot simpler than it would sound because of that. So here's the sound. Right, as it is initially. Okay. Or I guess it's like this. Then I have this filter that's a high pass for everything. You can't hear it yet because filter 1's going into it. So let's talk about filter 1. What this is doing is it's a comb filter, and what a comb filter is it's the entire harmonic series. So I'm using a filter to imprint the harmonic series onto basically just like noise. And what I'm getting out of that is a tone, right? I'm getting a super saw out of it, basically. That technique is called Car Plus Strong because it was developed by two people whose last names were Car Plus and Strong. Compression, distortion, chorus, and then a plucky low pass. Then we have a reverb that doesn't work anymore, and then this filter, and then distortion. Cool. Then we have this guy, which sounds like this. This is just your average super saw, you know. Then we got this guy at the end. Where is he? He's here. This is a growl I made a long time ago, and the process behind it is really convoluted and confusing because I started getting into this in this like thing in Serum. So just know that it's dumb. I have a wavetable that sounds like that. Or at least it sounds pretty close to that, because it sounds like this. Right? And that's a pretty atrocious sounding wavetable. It's getting its squelch from the bend minus, then we have the wavetable position stuff going on, we got some unison on it. Let's add the sub back in. Right, so that's a pretty atrocious sounding wavetable. I don't really know how I got it, but you can get something similar out of the... I'm not really sure how you can get something similar. But I guess you could probably get a sound like this out of like hyper growl stuff. But yeah, then we have this. Right. And then we start messing with it. Right, so that's all the post-processing. The last bit of post-processing is about 60% mix pitch map to do this. You can kind of hear the E minor coming out over that. If I take this stuff off, you can begin to make out the E minor chord that I'm playing on top of that. All right. Here's the next two measures. This is going to be, I think, a lot quicker, but we're going to go over them anyway. Wow, I love this section. Right. So, we have the same growl that I just went over, but at half speed. Then we have see my last video, because this sound is in fact the exact preset that I show there. Right. And this one has like actual pitch map on it. Without any post-processing, it's this. Right. So that's that sound. And then I already went over the first one here. But then this. Dun, da, 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 dun, da, 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 dun. Most of these sounds are the same. The new two are this one, which is a Neuropluck I made like 3 years ago. That sounds like this. Right, so it's a saw waveries pluck. And then with some extra like distortion and extra stuff to it, and then a lot of compression distortion in the post. There. Then we also have this guy. which is the same thing but with a flanger on it here. And it has a lot more high-end content. Right, and so we have... Otherwise, same exact thing going on here. See my latest tutorial, add pitch map to it. All of these sounds are basically the same thing that's already been talked about. This one's new. So this one's a bit of a weird technique, I'll admit. It's in this guy. I'm not really sure what's going on with the chords here. It looks like 1 flat 6 2 5 1. Just knowing myself and what I do. But I do the flat 6 over 3 and the... No, I do 1 over 3 and then flat 6 over 2. This sound, however, is really interesting because it sounds like this. Right, it's a phasor array I made a long time ago. It's a technique I got from AE5 as well, where you have the phasor on deeper, the speed kind of there, and then it has this, right, it kind of has that kind of thing to it. Then I pitch map it, so now we get... Then I have this frequency shifter. And the thing about a frequency shifter that is mixed in only slightly, or I guess about halfway, is it causes this effect according to the hertz amount. So that's doing phase cancellation. Another technique I got from AU5. OTT, EQ, to get rid of that like weird low end, wave shaper, and then a gross beat that has a flanger on it. It is also worth mentioning that the way I designed this first 8 measures of the drop are straight, 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 swung, straight, 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 swung. And that's intentional. Because when you listen to this drop and you hear just so much getting hit at you, I can kind of get away with a lot. But the thing is, this still needs something to break up the like just pure 16th notes flow that I have going on here to keep it interesting. So what I do is I have it swung. And then it switches there. All right. This is pitch mapped. Is this a Spectral Gate machine gun? Oh, I know what this sound is. I'm not sure how I made it though. Oh, I made this using the same technique as these guys. Like that kind of thing, just actually done well, and then you get... Right. Okay, this sound is a little silly, because this was made for Billiam Moto's event. I was like, you know what? I bet I can sneak in a Billiam reference here. So, Solar Blade by Billiam has a section that's right. It's just a really silly little sound. So I was like, I can do that. I can add a reference. I can't do it as good as he did because it's Billiam Moto, but I can make something. And so see my last tutorial on the process of how to make this sound, but the arrangement is just, I needed to keep it interesting, so I have this little building sound. This sound, See my latest tutorial. All of this, same deal. It's the exact same deal. See my latest tutorial. See my latest tutorial, variation on the sound we already have. Right, and then we have a basic supersaw, we have some chords, and then we also have this. We also have this is getting pitch mapped. So 1 second, let me find all the stuff that is making sound in this. Right. So how did I make that sound? It's actually a really funny method. It is Foley Maker. This. Basically, I have 8 versions of a sample stacked on top of each other, each one a different pitch. Like very much at a different pitch, right? And so whenever it crosses a transient, they play the first one all at once, and then they get more and more out of sync with each other as the sound goes on, which is how we get the... Right? And then with enough post-processing and such, and then reversed, you get that sound. And then there's this whole section. This section's really simple. Jur guitar. You know that neuropluck I was talking about earlier? Same preset. This is also the same 808 preset that I talked about before. Then we have this guy, which is... where did you go? Where are you? You're this. Why are you not making any sound? You must be muted. Are you muted like here? Basic supersaw shenanigans. There's a diopter on here because I can. Right, and then there's this. Once again, pretty standard supersaws. And that's pretty much all the sound design. You know, it's just kind of composition stuff. And I intentionally made it so Jur wrote these melodies. So I couldn't tell you what's going on with the composition, even though I did the chords. And what I'm doing with the chords, I'm just kind of like 1, 7, sharp 6 over, 4 over sharp 6. 2, 5. You know, it's very normal chord progression. It's just a diatonic walk down. So that's that whole drop. I should also mention, these 5 beats that are my favorite 5 beats, this is intentionally a reference to the melody. Right, and then here we have the, right. It's way cooler here, because, it's cooler. Right. So yeah, here's this whole drop, and then I'll go and show the intro and the ending that I also helped with. And then there was just a lot of stuff that I did in Jura's project file that we did like during calls. All right, cool. Let me load up the beginning project file. And then I'll go over some stuff in there, which will be a lot shorter than this one. And then the ending will also be very short compared to this. Yeah, that's the whole bass house drop. You'll also notice a lot of reuse sounds in the intro, and then a couple things in the ending. But the ending isn't very sound design heavy, so. Wow, this is taking a lot longer to load than I expected. So, just so you know, or at least like, okay, never mind, it's loaded, so I can go through. This is mainly split into 3 sections, which is this ending, this part, and the intro piano. So here's the intro. Okay, cool. There's a lot of stuff that isn't working correctly because my reverb plugin isn't working, and I used Comet all over the song. But oh well. We start with Jura piano. Then we have the Foley sounds in a granulizer with pitch map. And And it sounds really bad because Comet isn't working. There you go. This convolver should do the trick. Right, so that's how it sounds. You know. Then we have all this. There are 3 things going on here. This bell also does not have reverb right now. But I made this bell in Citrus. No, I made it in Contact. This is just a hybrid keys like piano patch. And then it has a super saw chord, and then it has wind. Same chord progression as before, by the way. Okay, I'm really, really proud of this specific melody. Because I wrote this, but I was in call with Jur, and I was like, I'm gonna try to write a melody that sounds like your style. And I wrote this melody, and I was like, Jur, does this sound like something you write? And she was like, this sounds like another song I'm working on. And she showed me a section of Lovely Lonely. And I was like, okay, perfect. You know? Since it shows I did my job. The chord progression of this is actually surprisingly harmonically complex. 1, 7, except it's actually, no, it's just, yeah, okay. 1, 7, 6 over 3. And then we have this, which is dominant 1, but it's 1 and then dominant 1 for the second half of the measure. Minor 4. This one's a little bit weird. It is technically G major over F sharp, so it's 3 major 7 over sharp 2, or 3 major 7 over 2, right, in minor. Secondary dominant, same chord progression again. I should also mention that the lead here isn't too complicated. It's just a supersaw with like, with a little bit of noise. This low pass and downsampling is where it's getting the interesting tonalities from. Right, so that's what's going on there, and then we have this supersaw chord, low pass supersaw. Rain. And then all this fully, which is the same thing as before, as I mentioned here. And then I wanted Jur to write a counter melody, but due to a miscommunication, she ended up writing this arpeggio line. And I was like, you know what, that's still really cool, so I'm going to just go and orchestrate it and put it on top. And then she wrote an actual counter melody, so that's this. Okay. This section, right, starting here, is something I made in 2 days because we needed something, but I didn't have enough time to care about it. So we have this faceplant Reese. We have these two. By the way, this has reverb on it in the actual project, but that reverb isn't working. And then we have Jura going, you know. And then we have this guy. As I said, fucking outrageous impact, but I didn't have the time to make a different one. So that impact, if you want to hear the full file, it's my biggest sound design flex. Is this guy right here. This is sped up. I don't want it sped up. Or post-processed. Sounds like this. Right, so that's the impact. That is a cut up M vocoder sound design jam with a lot of post processing and a lot of arrangement. It took me like 4 hours. Right. Okay. Then we get here. We have something. This is also supposed to have reverb. Right, so that sound. Then we got this guy. Something with this bass. This is another sine compression bass. The reason it sounds so weird is since I have bias all the way up and spread on it, so it's like not stereo, like aligned. It's actually a really stupid idea. Then we have the same pluck as before. Then we got this guy. And then we got this, which I think also... And the thing about this is, whichever sound this is, it's that. And the thing is, without pitch map, it's just that, and then I automate basically everything in pitch map, and that's where actually all the building is coming from. And then we also have a little bit of phase motif because Jur put in Senlus, so I decided I could put my OCs in as well. And I just made this quiet enough where it didn't really do anything, but it's or it's technically what the full motif is. Da, 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 da. Right, that's her full motif. But in this case, I can't make that work, so I changed the second half of it, you know? So all that together is this. If my reverb worked, it would sound like, you know, fine. keep calm and carry on. Right, same melody. Okay. Then I did the production on this part. You can tell because it's suddenly way fatter and wider and like this. My reverb plugin stopped working. But yeah, so that's what it is. Let's start with the stuff that she gave me. Right, so that's everything she gave me in the first half, and then the second half she has... Okay, let's talk about everything here. It's this guy again. Kick I made myself, along with the snare that she sent me. Right, so then this together is... AU5 Super Saw Killer, and then the normal Super Saw stuff from before. Right, and then all of that together already gives you a pretty good stack of... Now this sound, I'm going to come back to, because that is a preset recycled from a Scrap Drop Invasion, which I will show at the end. And then, right, we also add this, and now we have... for violin. And now we get to, I think, my favorite part of the song, unironically. So, there's these strings. They're doing G minor at 11. Or I guess it's this whole thing is G minor, and then the end it's the G minor at 11. Right. Then we have this. We have G minor at 11, followed by the same thing, but instead of 11, it's 13. This gets weird because I have C, G, D, B flat, and F. I never really figured out what chord that is. It could be anything. So we're just gonna say it's a B flat. I think B flat like 15, basically. F9, E flat major 7. Minor 2. 1 minor 7, and then the end. It's a C major. You know, it's just kind of one of those, like, I played what I heard, you know? And then we have this melody on top. Hold on. Yeah, so that's the last drop. For reference as to this Invasion bass, this is what the phase plant looks like. I'm not going to go over it because it's really needlessly complicated. The effects chain is stupid too. Invasion was just kind of a like sound design flex drop. It sounds like, I think this. Yeah, it sounds like this. Okay. I don't want a time sync because this is going to be super fast. No, this is what it sounds like. Interestingly, there's actually a lot of sounds in here that you can hear recycled in Genesis Strike. I mean, it's the same, like, kind of sound, but the... you know, I use that kind of sound a lot. It's the same exact process. It might have even come from the same preset. Then, that is the same growl that I use in the bass house drop. This is the saw sound. Right, so that's Invasion. That's where this sound comes from, right here. This one. Yeah. So that's all my parts of Genesis Strike. I also did some sound design for Jer's parts and just in general helped her with them. But yeah, enjoy.